Hello, and welcome back to Baby Elias's stories. We now return to Blade Runner 4, I and Talon by K.W. Jeter. Intercut. That was some good footage. The remote camera operator nodded in appreciation. He leaned back in the swivel chair so he could see more of the monitor screens arrayed in front of him. Got some good action off her. Somebody else was looking at the monitors. The camera operator had to swing his chair out of the way of the director, balancing himself with his hands against the edge of the control board. The director brought his face close to the icy glow of the screens, as though he wanted to see through the rows of pixels and into the darkness behind him. I don't know, the director's face, tending toward jowly at the best of times, now grew even heavier with the weight of his thoughts. He reached out one broad-fingered hand and rolled the tracking ball in the center of the board. The monitor, with the red active indicator, lit up above the screen, showing the backs of the female Blade Runner and the taller man walking beside her, filled with a closer angle on their images. The brighter, more lurid lights of the replicant animal souk spilled past them. The details. You really gotta sweat the details. You mean that? One of the camera operator's fingernails tapped at the monitor's glass. The lower left corner of the screen's image had a splotch of blackish red on it, from where the force of the female Blade Runner's fist had sent a spattered drop of blood flying into the hidden lens. We've got plenty of area and character texture that we can map and dub in. We can track the cover fill to match the other cameras. It'll look just like the real thing, he shrugged. Or as much as anything does these days. That's not what I'm worried about, said the director. He chewed on the knuckle of one hand while he waved the other dismissively at the blot on the screen. What the hell? Might as well leave that in. It's a nice effect. Adds to the impression of realism. The audience will think we planned it that way, so it's better than real, even if that's all it is. Real, I mean. He punched up another camera, hidden at the edge of the alley's wall. Another screen in the stacked ranks of monitors showed the female Blade Runner and her new companion heading out of the souk, shoving their way through the crowd and the phony animals. The angle caught a bit of a 3/4 profile as she walked by the unnoticed camera. She would have been pretty. She would have been pretty enough in a coldly near-perfect way to have stared in some other, more obviously fictional kind of drama if she had occasionally smiled. But the director knew that would have spoiled the particular effect he was going for. What concerns me is the loss of control. That's the worst. What do you mean? The camera operator glanced over at him. Everything is under control. He gestured at the monitor screens. There's nothing that can happen we're not going to get tape on. Don't be an idiot. That's not the problem. The director slowly shook his head. We're not using digitized actors here. Those Lucasoids will do whatever you want, whatever you program them to do. That's their nature. But not these guys. He gestured again at the screen. Especially her. We've introduced an uncontrolled element into our mix. And not only uncontrolled, unforeseeable. And that can be disastrous. Believe me, I know. I've worked this Blade Runner stuff before. Very sticky and dangerous. People can get hurt. Bad hurt. As in dead. Let's get rid of her then. The camera operator's shoulders raised in a shrug. We can do without her. Like you said, digitized actors are a lot more obedient. And let's face it, his smile looked both sick and ugly. Nobody will miss her. And we are in that kind of territory where we can get her ass iced pretty quickly. That's one of the simpler production problems. Thanks for the advice. Now shut up. The director's words turned vehement. You don't even have a frickin' clue about what we're doing here. This is not your usual production. Whatever. Obviously miffed, the camera operator folded his arms across his chest. You want to jerk around with real stuff instead of taking the easy and better route? Not my problem. You're the boss. That's right. The director let his gaze wander across the myriad screens, a wall of images from the various camera feeds scattered around LA. Like God in his domain, he reached out and placed his wide fingertips on the glass separating him from the images of the female cop and her new companion, pushing their way through the anonymous crowds. I call the shots. The camera operator raised an eyebrow as he glanced sidelong at the figure beside him, but said nothing. This job, he might have spoken aloud, was no worse than any other, just different.